We are live.
Yay!
Yay! We are going to keep it short tonight. We're going to be talking about your story, Denise, of collaborating with a
With a
narcissist.
narcissist. Yes. So earlier today, Haley, on my 11:30 showtime in your group, I it just popped up in my thing on YouTube. Um, I'm like, that looks familiar. I'm talking about that right now. I was sharing with your group a bit of the story that I was sharing with you last night. Um, and I had some viewers, so that was awesome.
That's cool.
Yeah. So tonight I wanted to share about me collaborating with somebody. So it's a little bit of a different story. So it's basically the story of me being in business with my ex-husband, who was a total narcissist. Because when we were talking last night, you were like, yeah, and as we're talking about your ex-husband, and I was like, oh, I need to share that story too, because there's a lot of signs there, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's all about sharing this information with the audience and letting them know like what signs to look for, so they don't get so deep in it. And if they're married to one, oh boy, bless you, my child.
And nice to see you too.
So, so we had a air conditioning and appliance business. Well, he did. It wasn't my business, and I knew enough at that point not to attach my name to anything,
Mm.
because at that point, yeah, I already had like this little voice in my head saying, "We need to plan an escape."
Ooh.
So, yeah. So,
That sounds like a winning combination. Here
right?
I'm stuck. I need to escape.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Mm.
So, and there was drug use also involved in this situation. His choice of drugs was cocktail pills, which also, as you know, like it always really takes everything over the top. So I did everything in the back end of the business. So the marketing, the taking the calls, the customer service, the accounting, the book, all of that. And he ran the calls out on the field. Which I will say this, looking back in hindsight, it made me, when I started my own business, it gave me the confidence because I had that experience. It gave me the confidence to start my own business.
Mm-hmm.
Because when I came here to North Carolina, after escaping that relationship, um, looking back, I was like, well, I did really well in that business. Like, I could do my own thing. It's a whole nother thing with online. But anyway, so here's the signs. The signs are very agitated, right? Everything has to be his way or the highway. Same thing in relationships, it's just in business, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, any of my suggestions for business, well, you don't know this business, you've never done this business. That's what he would say to me. Yeah. Um, and I didn't, but when ideas came to my head, like they were, good ideas. Like one was he got a call for, coincidentally, he got a call to go on a marina. And this was the beginning of us being on the marina, on all the marinas from what South Palm Beach to North Miami. So this call came in, it was given to him. Well, we learned very quickly to be on the marina, you had to have insurance and yada, yada, yada. So things like that I would present to him that he would either take as his own, right? Because narcissists like to take the claim to fame always. There's no, wow, Haley, that's a great idea. I really love that idea. Thanks for sharing that. Let's discuss this. It's always like, that's a great idea. I was just thinking of that, but you said it first.
Or that's a really stupid idea. 24 hours later, I had this amazing idea.
Ooh, that's a good one, Haley. How do you know that? How do you know that? Yeah,
How do I
exactly.
know that? Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
So, so there was a lot of, taking the ideas anger. A lot of narcissists are very angry. If you know a narcissist, talking to the audience, if you know a narcissist who's not an addict, that's very rare. Most of them are addicts of some sort, either an alcoholic or some addiction to something, because narcissistic people are very wounded, and so there's always something to numb the pain of the wounds. So my ex-husband, his choice, like I said, was pills. He liked all kinds of pills. So gosh, I have so many stories, but I'm going to focus on this one. And basically it's just sharing the signs of narcissism in business so that the audience can really grasp this. A lot of gaslighting, right? So like what you just described was 100% gaslighting. And Haley, do you have a story of narcissism with
Oh, I
business?
have lots of stories about narcissism in business and people I've made the mistake of collaborating with. Yeah.
I think we all do. I think if you're a business, you've come across a scenario of somebody.
Oh, sure. And I've worked with a lot of people over the years, and particularly being a woman in a very male-dominated field.
Oh, yeah.
Software engineering is not a very woman-centric field. So it was definitely not unusual for anything I said to be taken as, oh, that's a stupid idea, or completely ignored. And then somebody would bring it up 24 hours later. Yeah.
Right. And take the credit.
And absolutely take the credit. Oh, I don't know what she's working on. Oh, here, let me show you this amazing idea I had.
Yes. Yeah. How many times was that, like a common daily, weekly?
I only had it happen really bad probably 3 or 4 times.
Yeah.
In my career, but 3 or 4 times was more than I needed.
Yeah. Once.
And it really was never, and what I ran into, at least in corporate, is that you don't have control over who you get assigned to a team with necessarily. And sometimes you don't want to rock the boat or make waves, because one of the things I learned growing up was sit down, shut up, follow the rules, do what you're told, and expect to be noticed for what you're doing.
Yeah.
How well does that work?
Yeah. Yeah.
And, then you get into that situation where you're working with a narcissist, and it's really, really hard to combat that, because you don't even recognize that it's happening, especially if you've never had it happen before. Or if you're in a situation where you're trying to follow the rules because you've been told to sit down, shut up, follow the rules, shut your mouth, and you'll be noticed. And then you've got somebody claiming credit for your work. That's a
over
huge deal.
And over. Yeah. Yeah. I've had women come to me with work, like you're just saying, corporate America work situations, and the narcissist is either the boss or the coworker or
the team lead.
Yeah. Somewhere in the realm of their work environment, and they make it miserable. They make it unbearable, to the point where, like I was sharing last night, where some women, they get really depressed about it, because this is your livelihood. This is your bread and butter. This is your career. You went to school for this. This is what feeds the family. Where are you going to go? What are you going to do? And another thing that I see is that when they do leave that job, they go to another job, and they're there too. It's the same scenario, just different people and different body. It's the same people in different bodies.
Yeah. And I had the scenario too, where, to be honest, I was trying to get off the team, but it's really hard to switch teams. It's really hard to move. It's really hard to take credit for your work if your team lead is taking credit for the work that you're doing.
Yeah.
And I mean, I had a couple of bosses who were very definitely narcissists, and, they took it, and as you described, people in leadership, people who are business owners, people who have that power, tend to rise into those types of positions a lot of times.
Oh, yeah.
And, I remember one time being lectured about being unnecessarily terse in emails. And it turned into this whole rigmarole about, when you're responding to me, you need to respond to me appropriately. And you need to give me like this 3-page essay on this simple thing. And I have to say that never since in my entire career has anybody wanted to have me respond to them in that level of depth ever.
Bow down to
Yeah,
the
bow
feet.
down
Kiss the feet.
before me because I know way more than you do and you're unnecessarily terse. Y'all, I'm a software engineer. Software engineers, by definition, are kind of terse.
Well, and it's the devaluing you as a person. It's the devaluing, and that's what they do, right?
Oh,
Because
absolutely.
they devalue other people, because in their eyes, everybody's beneath them, which is, and they also do it to make themselves feel higher. And because they do it in personal relationships. They
Yeah,
devalue the
and
person.
definitely, one of the things that I ran into a lot were the snarky comments about, oh, you have a nanny. Y'all, I had, 1, then 2, then 3 kids, then 4. I had au pairs. My oldest was a preemie. I didn't really have a whole lot of choices for childcare if I was going to continue working.
But what does that have to do with anything?
But what does it have to do with the
Yeah.
price of tea in China?
Yeah. Right.
And where does the house that I bought matter to you at all?
Right.
And, all of these like comments and things that would happen and, just really devaluing the decisions that I had made as an individual. Oh, well, how long are you going to do that for? Referring to how long are you going to be pumping milk for your baby? Well, a year at least, preferably. And honestly, it's none of your freaking business.
Yeah. Yeah.
But, I had a direct manager who asked me those questions. And, every time I would have a kid or have a baby, then I would go from being in a single office to suddenly having an office mate, lo and behold.
Right.
And you talk about it being, in entrepreneurship and in business. Yeah, I see a lot of business owners, not every business owner, but I do see enough that are like that, and I feel like a lot of times I'm cleaning up the dead bodies or cleaning up after messes that other digital marketing agencies cause. Oh, look, they were running $4,500 a month in ads to the front page of somebody's website.
Wow.
Y'all, you don't do that.
Yeah.
And talking down and belittling the client and, being mad at him for understanding his business and knowing what keywords, were for the products that he actually sells and doesn't sell and what keywords he doesn't want to be paying it for ads on.
Yeah.
I mean, the poor client, he's come to us and we're like, oh, well, of course you need to tell us these things because we don't know initially every single service you provide. And he's like, yeah, I'm getting clicks for this. I don't provide that service. I'm like, okay, let me take those off of there real quick.
Right. I just want the audience to I want to pull out the things that you're saying. So the devaluing, the snarky remarks,
the complete like gaslighting,
the personal questions about your personal life. That has nothing to do with business.
Yeah. Devaluing, somebody's knowledge, making comments about their family.
These are signs to look for.
Yeah. And my gosh, you get all it manifests itself over and over and over again in life and business. And wow, learning to recognize that and get out of it is really, really tough.
Yeah. And that's what I was just going to say is like, that's why I wanted to point that out so that for the listeners, they know like to put a name to what's actually going on. Because I know for me, I called my ex-husband like the entire time that we were married, oh, he's just being a jerk, or he's just being a a-hole, or he had a bad day or whatever, right? Making excuses and just calling him names. I never saw it for what it was, abusive behavior. That's abusive behavior. Snarky remarks, asking, like probing you personal question, which is none of their business, and devaluing you is abusive behavior. And so the first step is to call it out on what it is, That's abusive behavior. And that person's not just an a-hole, that's narcissistic behavior. And
Right.
I
And they
want,
may choose to pick particular victims too.
absolutely they do.
You know, so one of
Yes.
the things to know about these narcissists is that they pick and choose their targets and their victims. So you may have a manager of a department who only picks on 2 people in the department and who
That's
only
right.
makes comments to 2 or
Yep.
3 people. Or you may have, you know, your husband who's only devaluing you, and, you know, abusing you verbally, but he's so sweet and he's the most amazing and upstanding, you know,
Yes.
amazing individual in the history of the world, and nobody can understand what your problem is with him.
Right. And then you look crazy.
Mhm.
And that's the crazy making. That's part of the crazy making. Yeah. And so I just want to share, like, the reason why they do that is because there's an energy that they pick up on, and they know who they can get away with this behavior in some people and not in other people.
Absolutely.
They know who they can get away with it.
Mhm.
So when a woman stands up, like, let's use like a male boss or a man and a
Mhm.
woman, when a woman stands up to this person, she's immediately going to be viewed as a bitch,
Mhm.
right? She's being a bitch. And he's not going to abuse her the way that he's abusing the other people, because she won't take it. She will, like, block it, right? You can't, that's unacceptable, walk away, whatever she does to not accept it. And then he chooses somebody else.
Yeah, absolutely. And,
Yeah.
you know, and that's the challenge, right? Is you have to recognize it and know that it's happening, and, you know, be aware of it. Have your eyes really, really open, because
Yes.
it can be very, very subtle at times.
Yes. And 95% of the time it is subtle.
Mhm.
That's one of the words that I use about narcissistic abuse. They do bring it on very subtly.
Mhm.
They, here's the thing, abusive people don't show up, whether it's in a work situation, in business, or in relationships. They don't show up with a cardboard and flowers and say, I'm a fucking asshole, date me, or I'm an asshole, let's do business together, let's collaborate, let's, no. They show up smiling, complimenting,
Mhm.
wow, what a great business, listening. They show up in all the ways that somebody who's in business or wanting a relationship would expect the other person to show up. That's what they wanted. And that's the subtle, so it starts off like that, and then it starts to slowly trickle, and you barely notice until so much has happened. You look and you're like, oh my
Mhm.
gosh.
How in the world did all that happen?
Exactly.
And I look back on some of my experiences with clients and with corporate, and I'm like, what the heck happened here?
Yeah.
How in the world did it get that far?
Yeah.
And, you know, that's definitely a thing, you know, and
Yeah.
collaborating with these people in business, because you may not have people in your personal relationships that are like this,
Right.
you
Yep.
know.
I had somebody message me today. She doesn't have, it's family. She's dealing with family. Yeah. And she wants help with it, with her family. So it's not an intimacy relationship, it's family. But yeah, I mean, they're everywhere.
Yeah,
They're everywhere.
absolutely.
So it's unavoidable. However, there's a way for all of us to react and feel differently when we see a narcissist, or we have a short conversation with them, or we work with them, or whatever. There's a way for your reaction to be different than the triggered behavior and all that. And that's
That's
what the,
absolutely important.
yes. Yeah.
Love it.
Hmm.
Cool.
Yes.
Tell us a little bit about the challenge that you've got going on at the end of this month.
Okay, so the challenge, I know I said last night, it's the love again challenge, but it's the trust again challenge.
Great.
And I'm going to start talking about that all this month about trust, because this is something that we all have issues with. Everybody has trust issues with. I talked about it a little bit today. But especially if somebody's been in these types of relationships that we just described, there's a lack of trust within herself moving forward, whether that's with business or in relationships. So it's a 3-day Trust Again challenge. And I'm going to show, and I gave a little bit of a snippet today of an example of how we learn, this is a learned behavior, not to trust as a small child, and how that grows into adulthood, and how we can unlearn that behavior so that we can trust, so that when we do partner with somebody in business or hire somebody or get into a relationship with somebody, or even before you even go on the first date, is what I teach my clients, to know if this is trustworthy person, is this worth my time? Yeah. So
Love it.
yeah, the end of this
That is
month.
so cool.
Yeah, the links are
Woohoo!
being put together and getting ready. So yeah, I'll share that.
I'm so excited. Yeah, I
Me too.
cannot wait to see. So thank you so much for joining me tonight.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I love
And y'all
all
make
these
sure
topics.
you check the links. We're going to go back and post them as they're available. And I can't wait to see you guys in the challenge.
Yes.
Thanks, guys. Take care. Bye-bye. Good night.
Bye.